In one case, you say, of course we should do that. And the other, you say, no, we shouldn't because a lot of people don't like that. Okay, I don't care. Let's assume Dusty was at January 6th, right? And he goes back. I don't know where you're from, Dusty. Let's assume you're from Alabama, right? So he goes back to Alabama, and the federal authorities are like, we're coming to Dusty's house to arrest him. And Dusty shelters up in a state courthouse, and this governor of Alabama is a red right-winger and says, nope.
Again, not comparable because the safe spots are for illegal immigrants, not for people who are engaging in insurrection or whatever. As you put it.
It does not matter. The reason that we're saying the reason that it matters would be this: that the people attacking federal law enforcement to protect Dusty would be engaged in an insurrection. Right?
Yeah, because they'd be going against the government.
Yes.
Right.
So, I could give you the criteria from Bowden Paulson.
The legal criteria is there. Well, there actually really is no legal criteria except the president just determines that this counts. So legally, the right is there. But is it wide? Is it a good decision? Absolutely not. I don't know why. What? Let me ask you this: why was it a good decision for federal agencies to go pursue illegal immigrants in country or in states where they're not wanted and where these aren't even border states? It's not like they have a current problem with bringing in more illegal aliens.
Okay, first, if you don't mind me answering with a question, I know it's bad form. I'll just
Let's do one-on-one. Gentlemen, 1 second.
You do agree it's the purview of the federal government to enforce immigration law, correct?
Yes.
So if a state such as California says we disagree, we want to allow these people here, that's irrelevant. The federal government's
if the federal government is doing a dramatic change in their approach to enforcing the laws, that's bad leadership. That's bad management.
You might say that. I think it's bad management that we've let dozens of millions of illegals in here. So I think that was bad management, and I think turning that around and enforcing the law is good management. Nonetheless, so to answer your question, once you agree with that, yes, it would not matter if it's in the heart of America. I don't give a shit if it's a completely insulated state like Nebraska. Of course, I want the feds enforcing immigration law there. The idea that because they get to a state that's not a border state, then we should no longer enforce it is nonsensical. Not to mention that maybe many of these people that are being deported, in addition to just being, the laws should be enforced anyways because that's the immigration law, many of them are members of gangs or people that have engaged in violence that the state governments have allowed slip through their fingers.
Many of them are not as well. Of course, they're going to promote the ones that are, for sure.
Sure, but let's say I could concede. We'll say some are, some aren't. Forget the percentages. Doesn't matter.
Let's say most of them aren't.
Okay, let's say that for the sake of argument. I don't know that that's true, but let's say, nonetheless, the law should be enforced to all of these people. And why would we say that the feds would not be allowed to go into these states if it's clear that they're ones that even you're admitting are hardcore criminals that the state government's incapable or unwilling to detain?
Well, there are hardcore criminals everywhere. You could throw a dart at a map and there would be a criminal.
Nonetheless, your point was, why would we accept federal authorities? Why would we want them to enforce immigration law in non-border states?
If you acknowledge that there are criminals everywhere in the world, right? And now all of a sudden we have ICE choosing to enforce these across the country in a way that we've never been done before. That's an aggressive act by the federal government against states, against the states' wishes, and it's purely antagonistic.
It's not antagonistic, right? Enforcing the federal law isn't antagonistic. And again, let's assume, I just want to be clear. If ICE was an agency that found through their investigations of a criminal cartel that was smuggling people in, that a member of ISIS had been smuggled in and was in California, and the government of California is like, we just don't cooperate with ICE, and ICE went in there and arrested this member of ISIS planning a terror attack, your argument is no. They shouldn't do that because that member of that member of ISIS made it to a non-border state. So therefore we shouldn't care.
Nope. My argument is that's terrorism is a DHS thing. It's not an immigration. At this point, that person, their immigrant status, not really even doesn't matter at all. What matters is that they're planning terrorist attacks. And so that needs to be stopped and that needs to be picked up. But their immigrant status is.
You say it's DHS. I want you to take a guess. ICE operates under which agency?
I'm sorry, it's FBI. FBI is who's.
I don't think that the FBI is the sole. You don't think the DHS also works on anti-terror investigations?
I don't think that ICE is primarily responsible for investigating terrorism.
Well, it might not be primarily, but certain in the course of law enforcement, if they come to find that there are actual terrorists, why would we? The point I'm trying to make is it's clear that your argument that it's somehow different if ICE is enforcing getting rid of illegals in Texas, that's somehow different than California because California doesn't directly border Mexico, which, by the way, isn't true. It does, I believe, at the southern part.
Well, I said not all of them.
Okay, so then Illinois.
Oregon, Illinois.
Okay.
Right.
But
So
there's
these
that distinction doesn't matter. Who cares? But
does
why does it
matter
matter? So you're
because-
okay with ICE in Texas, just to be clear.
No, but I think that they've got a better justification for it because it is a border state. So you could say that.
I don't know what to say.
I mean, if Texas is making the problem worse actively in the moment, that's different than the status quo. The fact of the matter is, for my whole life, your whole life, we've had pretty lax ICE enforcement. For
Agreed.
Trump, right. So for Trump to just all of a sudden go, hey, we're coming to all your states, whether you like it or not, that's a dramatic change in policy. It's aggressive and it's overreach.
Do you think that if you were an illegal, that you would be more willing to go to a state to settle in that claimed to want to support you and call themselves a sanctuary state?
Yes.
So do you think that if you're a federal government trying to deport illegals, that the best place and most likely place to go to find them would be these very sanctuary states?
Yes.
So then your only argument seems to be here, well, hey, I want these illegals to stay because we've always let them stay, and it's radical to now enforce the law that's on the books.
My argument is that there are proper ways to start re-implementing things that we haven't been implementing, and having federal agents kick the door in on states that don't want them there is not a good way to do it. It's an antagonistic way to do it.
So what should they have done?
And it's going to create more problems than it's going to solve.
What should they have done?
What should they have done? They should have start slowly restricting and increasing enforcement of immigration laws over time. They shouldn't just.
What does that mean?
What do you mean? What's that mean?
Okay,
we have not been enforcing these laws.
Okay,
but we want to start enforcing them.
Okay, so I'm Trump's administration.
Turn up the heat.
I'm Trump's administration. I just watched the previous administration let millions upon millions of illegals in and not enforce immigration law. So I have 4 years to try to do something. Your argument is I should come in Trump's administration and say, listen, California, Illinois, we want to gradually start enforcing immigration laws. They say, no thanks. Now what do I do?
Well, you started with it at the border. You as the president in charge of federal agencies, you do what you're chartered to do. What you
enforce
don't do
immigration laws. Correct. That's what you're chartered to do. That's part of the law. You have no ability. You have no ability to think in nuance, do you, or to understand the kind of. I do. You're looking at it in the inverse.
The diplomacy. In America, we've got states' rights, we've got federal rights.
Let me ask you this, Dusty.
It's a big complex system that works on checks and balances, and you just want. And it seems like you want a king.
Okay, let me ask you this: do you think that there are members of Congress that deal in insider trading?
Yeah.
Do you think that's something? I think we would both agree that's something we would like to be enforced.
Yes.
Do you agree that it's hardly ever enforced?
Yes.
So if we elect, I don't know who your ideal president would be, but let's say we elect Rand Paul, and he's like, you know what, my first act, fuck it. We're aggressively going after the Congress people that we know of insider trading. Your argument would be, no, because we have never enforced those laws, so you can't just go after people. You would have to be very gradual in how you went after it.
It is
Explain.
It is entirely different PR position.
Well, yes, right. So the argument
you don't think that the sentiment of the American public watching what their government's doing, you don't think that matters?
Of course it matters, right?
Okay.
And if they don't like it, then they could go to the ballot box and they could vote to change the law. But both scenarios are analogous in this. There are laws on the book, right? In both cases, the government have ignored the laws on the book. In both cases, someone would run on promising to enforce those laws. In both cases, they come in and say, okay, it's time to start enforcing. And in one case, you say, of course we should do that. And the other, you say, no, we shouldn't because a lot of people don't like that. Fuck it. I don't care. The law is the law. If those people don't like it, then they could vote to change the law.
What is the objective? What is your objective with the situation? You just want all laws enforced, or is there a bigger picture here? All laws enforced no matter what?
I want our illegal immigration laws enforced and the illegals to be removed from the country. That's what I voted for.
Regardless of whether or not it creates other issues, it creates civil unrest.
If other people decide, you tell me, then what else should we do? So if the left decides to riot every time they don't get their way, then the right should never do anything that they'll be willing to riot over?
No, I don't think that this is the right issue, and I don't think that this is a very, very predictable situation. It's actually, this situation is guaranteed.
Do you remember when the Insurrection Act was declared against Governor Wallace for integrating schools?
I don't remember it. I wasn't there.
But you know that occurred.
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that forcing integration was something that was likely to inspire a lot of anger and violence?
Yes.
So therefore, we shouldn't have done it, correct?
That's my opinion. I don't think that it should have been enforced.
So you don't think that we should have enforced integration?
I don't think that we should have bused black students to white schools and enforced it that way. No.
Busing's different. The question was allowing black students into white public schools.
Again, I think that I would have, if it were me, and this is not really the point of the debate, but I would have just removed the laws without enforcing the integration part. Yeah, I think
so. So just to be clear, you would have said the federal law would have said, look, if you're a public school, you can't discriminate based on race. We both agree that should be, our tax dollars shouldn't be allowed to white only spaces, correct? Okay. But you just wouldn't enforce it. The schools would say, fuck you, we're not going to leave blacks in, and you would have said, okay.
I wouldn't force it. I would enforce it, but not force it. What they did is force it.
Wait. Explain the difference between enforcing the law and forcing.
Enforcing means you prevent the school administrators from breaking the law.
That's what they did. Wallace refused to allow black.
Enforce it means that you bus in black students. So
you're telling me that it was a forced busing issue. It wasn't that there were black students that lived in the area and wanted to go to that school.
I don't know for sure because I wasn't there, but the impression I'm under is that they brought in black students to white schools and that created conflict. I wouldn't have created that conflict to prove a point.
I don't think that's the case, but even if it was, it would have been inevitable in a very short amount of time, right? That once integration in public spaces was the law of the land, that there would have been blacks that if you just took them to the nearest school would have been schools that were predominant, that were always white. You agree with that?
Right.
And in that situation, if the governor said, nope, we're not allowing this, you would have sent in the National Guard and have used the Insurrection Act.
Then that's when you enforce it. Then
but you don't have any clue if that's what happened or not.
No, I don't. I wasn't there. This isn't the point of the topic of the debate. You're asking me to speculate about something that happened 50 years ago. The reason that this matters is because you talked about the need to not do things, even if they are enforcing the law, if there are segments of the population that would be angry about it and maybe use violence. Is the law always right?
No.
So why is that your only priority is enforcing something that you acknowledge can be wrong?
It's not my only priority. My priority, regardless, if I had to vote right now, if we as a country had voted for open borders and that was the law of the land, I would want to vote for not open borders, right? Now, luckily for me, that's already what the law has been. So there is a law on the books that I want enforced, that lawfully should be enforced. And one of the reasons, so that's the reason that I want it, because it's a law that I care for and think that should be enforced, that would make things better for the country, and it's already the law. But let me turn the question to you, right? Do you think that political violence and political terrorism is a bad thing?
Yes.
What about political terrorism itself is uniquely bad?
Unique amongst other violence?
Yes. Example, it's bad if I stab you for money, but there seems to be something uniquely bad if I stab you for a political reason. Why?
I disagree that.
Well, let me explain and you tell me if you agree or not. Because when we allow people to change the course of our laws through violence, that's uniquely bad because it encourages other people that are unhappy with the law to say we too will use violence, correct?
Correct.
We'll just do
so
it.
then then I'll finish with this. So then your argument that we can't enforce immigration laws that are on the book because people will act in violence is giving in to political terrorism.
If you have states and communities that have massive illegal immigrant populations because we have not been enforced, because the government's been lax on enforcing those laws, and you go in one day against the local community's wishes, yes, that's then that's really not on
I
them.
think
That's
baby
not
murder-
conflict. And by the way, there is also a lot of controversy about whether or not they are actually just enforcing the law, because courts keep ruling against the way they're carrying out their
Doesn't
jobs.
matter. And the courts get show me
Of
one
course,
time.
it fucking matters.
Show me
It
one
doesn't
time
matter.
show me one time it's made it to the Supreme Court and they've upheld those court decisions.